golfj.com.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to our special Open Championship preview edition of the Golf J podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. I'm Jim Sinicropi alongside Doug Brown and Rhett Ticconi here inside the FingerLakes1.com studios on the third floor of the North Park building in Seneca Falls, New York on Monday, July 16th, 2018. And of course, tonight we'll talk about the British Open, or the Open, at Carnoustie. Season's third major gets underway this week, but also the PGA Tour finally came out with a new schedule for 2018-19, and we'll talk about that. So welcome back, guys. We had a couple weeks off.
What's up, Jim?
And we're back for a major championship.
I forgot what you look like. It's been so long.
Well, we've seen each other outside the studio, but I did shave for the hot heat. Been so hot. So yeah, it's I guess let's get things underway. We got a lot to talk about, and probably should start out talking about the new PGA Tour schedule, which we knew they were going to move the PGA Championship till May and the Players to March, and a lot of other talk, but it's official now, including the fact that the PGA Tour season is over before Labor Day weekend. August 19th through 25th is the Tour Championship. And it's just a 3-week playoff stint. The Northern Trust, the BMW, and the Tour Championship, basically all throughout August. And I know there's a lot of things here on this schedule that I'm not happy about, but I guess I'll give it a shot and see what it's like. But what are your guys' first impressions?
Well, I'm glad that it's done before Labor Day. I think that's a good idea. Competing with the NFL for TV coverage is probably their challenge. You know, the NFL is it's a juggernaut all by itself. So I like that idea. I'm a little concerned about some of the majors, especially moving the PGA to May. We'll see what happens this coming May when we're going to be at Long Island.
Yeah, Bethpage.
Right. And in a few years, it's supposed to be at Oak Hill. Now, I know we're a little bit geographically different, but yeah, geographically the same. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the springtime, because as we know, April sometimes is iffy, and so can May be iffy.
Yeah, even early June.
I'm afraid that moving that major to May might take like the northeast quadrant of the country out of the picture after the rotation that's already set up goes through. And if that's the case, I don't see Oak Hill necessarily wanting a U.S. Open or being in that realm, and that might take championship golf at that level out of the Northeast, or especially in our region, maybe forever.
Yeah,
So that bothers me.
How about you, Rhett? What do you think?
Well, I like the Players' Championship going back to March. I think that's a good spot for that.
Yeah.
A nice big tournament to tune up for the majors.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not like the PGA being in May. I've always liked it being in the summer and in August. I know player-wise, it's always very hot usually when they have it in the locations they have it. But I just don't like the fact that the Open Championship now is going to be your last major, and you don't see another major until April from even July. It's only another month, but it just feels like that much longer that we have to wait for a major.
Right.
And I just love that run from the U.S. Open through the actually FedEx Cup with so many big tournaments. Seemed like every pretty much 2 to 3 weeks there's a big tournament, whether it's the FedEx Cup championships at the end, with the Tour Championship, with the PGA and the Open and the U.S. Open, going backwards that way. So I'm not a big fan of moving it to May. Weather-wise, I don't. They'll have it up here in New York and in the Northeast, but even if it's a little nippy, it can be cold in the British Isles too in July.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the conditions of the golf course.
I can see.
It doesn't give them that time to get it ready.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
But it also, in the Northeast could bake out later in the year. So I guess it's give and take with that part of it. Scheduling-wise, I just like having a major in August.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like golf season is, especially when you're up here in the Northeast, our golf season is May to September.
Right.
So you feel like that's the heart of the golf season still, and to not have a major in the heart of the golf season.
Right.
I just, I don't know, maybe I'm just a little more traditional.
I think that the Players' Championship will be more anticipated in May. I think,
PGA?
the PGA. I think in May that it will be more popular, more anticipated. I just think that in spring, maybe it's because where we live in the Northeast, but we're excited for golf, and there's more of a chance you're going to sit down and watch instead of actually being out in the course playing or out in the yard or at some summer gathering. But I hope it doesn't hurt the chance for an Oak Hill to get a major, a PGA championship. That's the only thing is I think you'll see less of these classic Northeast courses that we like so much, getting a shot. And, when I look at this schedule, my first take is, why not go one more week for the Tour Championship and end it on Labor Day when you basically have the whole, sports world to yourself? There's no, is there a Monday Night Football game on Labor Day? I mean,
they don't start till the weekend.
Yeah,
they start that
so
Thursday.
Why would they hold off? I mean, college football would be your only. It seems like that would be the ideal way, and then that allows you to keep another tournament in here. Some of the old. Long-running tournaments are the ones that get hurt by this because everything seems to be relegated to second-class citizen unless you're a World Golf Championship event or a major. And that's got me thinking, too, is like, are these World Golf Championships really a success? Is it a successful thing that they launched? It seems like the PGA Tour is already an international entity, and they're already playing in the fall over in Korea and Malaysia and China and Mexico. I don't get that excited for these WGC events. The Bridgestone maybe seems like the one that might be the biggest, but even the match play, it's fun to see match play, but it doesn't feel like a bigger tournament than the Valero Texas Open or the Wells Fargo or the Byron Nelson.
Right.
I think those have fallen off a little bit too. With I think there's a little Tiger effect on those as well. He dominated them so many times. What did he say? Have 17 WGC trophies or something along those lines. He's won the Bridgestone 8 times. I mean, I think him not being as prominent in those has taken away from those as well. And then you've had some guys win them that not as big names either. The match play used to be much bigger than it is now. I think when the match play was at La Costa, it was at the height of Ernie Els and Vijay Singh and Tiger and Darren Clark beat Tiger the one time and Tiger beat Adam Scott. I mean, there was a lot more fanfare to do with those tournaments, I think, 10 years ago.
Right.
I don't think, like you said, Jim, those kind of almost come off as normal tournaments.
And then they add the FedEx St. Jude is now a WGC event, which, what's up with that? It's because FedEx is sponsored it, and they sponsor the PGA Tour's biggest sponsor. But July 22nd and 28th in Memphis, Tennessee, TPC Southwind.
That's not world golf.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's Southern golf in the summer.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like maybe award them with maybe a playoff event of some kind instead of a WGC event. But, at the end of the day, we're going to have to see how it plays out. I don't like the fall schedule. It seems like you open up the season with a Safeway, and then the next thing you know, you're on the other side of the world. Those tournaments get over at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
It's tough to get too excited. And then that first WGC event, which is supposed to be a big tournament in Shanghai, China. Again, that is not on par with the Arnold Palmer Invitational or the John Deere, or the Travelers. Even in my opinion, it's I don't know.
Maybe they feel they'll get a better field now because the regular season's over mid-August. Maybe they feel that it'll give a couple months off where they'll attract some bigger names to that now.
Well, there's another gap here, too, to think about.
Yeah.
Where does the Ryder Cup and President's Cup fit in? So next year at the end of the schedule, it's the President's Cup. 2 years from, one more year later than it's Ryder Cup. That's usually been mid to late September. So in either case of that, that's another month gap to where do they go?
Yeah, I guess it gives them some flexibility, but how do you work that as a player into your schedule?
Right. Usually we're playing right up to it or maybe a week prior because they don't give the points. Well, they weren't giving the final points out to the PGA in August.
Right.
So now I don't know when they're going to award those. But then it's just another notable gap, and we need to be competitive.
And if you get eliminated the first week of the Northern Trust, now you're off for even longer. You're off
2
like
months.
7 weeks. Yeah.
So interesting to see what happens. It's obviously their first time through, and they're obviously not bashful about making change. I'd like to think that they would reconvene and say it went well or didn't, because there's got to be some noses bent.
Yep.
right? And then there's going to be some conflicts as you go through it because somebody's not going to like something. It's going to take a little player involvement probably to shake it up a little bit.
And there's new tournaments. The Rocket Mortgage at Detroit Golf Club on end of June, and the first week of July is a 3M Open at TPC Twin Cities in Minnesota, so a couple new ones. But I think they missed a big chance to make the fall portion of this tournament a little more of a true start instead of like a minor league.
Yeah,
it's almost like a web.com tour schedule here. Yeah. Because the guys are getting off earlier. I would have liked to see them maybe even start a week or two later, but push it into, December even maybe. From a TV perspective, I guess, I'm more likely to look forward to watching golf in late November and early December than I am in early October.
Right.
But it is what it is. Obviously, so much goes into it. They have so much logistical challenges when putting together something like this, but it will be different because as long as I've been alive, it's been Masters, U.S. Open, British Open, PGA, and so that's going to be different.
It's if you look at it too, it's weird that you go almost 2/3 of the season before you even get to a major, and I guess that's always been the case. But when you look at it listed as it is now, it just seems like you said, Jim, if they pushed it maybe down into November.
Well, it's only been the case since they went to the fall schedule.
Yeah.
What's that? Only been 2-3 years now, right?
It seems like forever.
Because when they started January 1, early April's not too far away.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But now that they've added 3 more months to the beginning. So
I just wish the fall schedule was actually the end of the season, where it's just like it was they had those 8 tournaments after when the FedEx Cup first started, and I think they had the fall series, and it didn't matter as much. But neither of these tournaments as they stand now. I'd rather see the main season start January at the Tournament of Champions. I always like that.
Yeah, and a lot of traveling going on in the fall. You're going from California to Malaysia to Korea to China to Mississippi to Nevada to Mexico to Georgia.
Right.
Well, let's face it, they don't get the same population of people at those sites.
No. Right.
Because if I'm a fringe player, I'm not going to go to Malaysia and Korea and China. I'm playing in Jackson, Mississippi, though.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I want points and I want money. So.
Right.
Well,
I guess they had to make those tournaments count for the FedEx, and that's probably one of the main reasons they did it this way, right? Because after the FedEx Tour or Cup is over, those 8 tournaments or whatever really didn't matter for anything.
Right.
Those
it was
first
just
few years.
On the money list, it might have got you the top 150 or something like that. But right, the FedEx was over.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't mind it as a start. I just wish they could have done better. There's no congressional this year. What's the name of that?
The National?
Yeah, there's no.
That's gone. Greenbrier's gone.
Yeah, the Greenbrier, which is something everybody liked. So why not make the fall schedule a little more noteworthy? And I get the trying to expand their markets and everything, but to Malaysia and China and parts of Asia, but at the expense of not playing at Congressional or the Greenbrier, which everybody seemed to like, or the expense of adding a few more domestic tournaments to make it more of a. It doesn't feel like the PGA Tour, the CJ Cup at 9 Bridges, the CIMB. It just doesn't. The Mayakoba.
Money. Seems like there's a lot of tournament fees associated with those early tournaments.
The only thing that's going to matter is if you got the guy that wins it in your fantasy league.
Yeah, right.
That's
you
right.
get a couple bucks off everybody, and
get some points.
Other than that, nobody really remembers.
Yep. So there it is. It was a long time coming. What do you guys feel about the 3-week playoff as opposed to 4?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I am too.
I think
It was drawn out too much.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and then you had guys sitting out.
Yep.
It's like, how do you? It just didn't seem right that you could sit out a playoff and not have your status affected really that much.
Right.
Still have a chance to win it, even in a couple of those years that Rory had that
still may
issue.
happen, but
at least now it's a shortened window. I think you'll see them all play. They'll all play all 3 tournaments for the most part.
So I guess if somebody had that good of a season where they won, let's say somebody wins 9 times, and the nearest one is 2 or 3. So that guy probably deserves a little bit more of a head start, right? He's already got it anyways, right? But usually, lately, there's been nobody running away.
No.
Somebody might win 5, but there's a couple 4s and all that kind of good stuff, right? So it seems like it's competitive, but yet we still lose a player or 2 that first week or the second week.
Yeah.
So I know, I agree with it. It still could happen. But again, if somebody has that good of a year, then
they've earned it.
God bless them, right?
So the only other question, and they kind of hinted at it when they released this, is that there might be changes at the Tour Championship as to how they determine the champion. So that'll be interesting to see too. Personally, like I've said before, is I would cut it down. Like it's a field of 30, cut it down to 8. If you make the top 8, you get in there, and then let the winner take all, or something. Any other sport, the person who wins the final game wins the trophy.
Yeah.
And in golf, it's a big math equation at the Tour Championship.
Right. Yeah, I mean, definitely would be cool to see just a lot more exclusive final where it's a lot more is on the line. And it's, even not necessarily saying a match play, but I like just eliminating a lot of the extras.
Right.
After the, it's situated pretty good, but like what is it? Like the top 9 all have a
top 5 or 6.
Top 5 or 6.
If they win,
mathematical
they
chance.
win outright.
Yeah. So maybe you get to the top 8, and then at the final tournament, everybody has a chance. The winner take all with the last 8 guys.
Yeah, I like that. Because it gives you a guy early on, a 120th place guy has a chance to move up those previous weeks. If he gets hot, like Billy Horschel did there several years ago, you win second win, then you deserve where you end up, moving up the ladder. So he's not closed out, but if you don't get in the final 8, like Jim suggests, or 12, something along those lines, and so then he didn't, right? You still had a chance to go from 120 to 13th.
Yeah.
And you make a fortune doing it.
Right.
So
job well done, but you're not in.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just something imperfect about trying to wrap up a golf season that way. And NASCAR had the same problem.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of the individual sport, where there's not 28 teams, there's 140 guys, and it's just a different type of a game. In a NBA final, best of 7 series, the better team's going to win every time. You can tee up the top 50 golfers in the world 50 times in a row and have 40 different winners.
Right.
So, but no matter what the PGA tries to do here with the schedule to create interest or create a playoff format, it's always going to be about the 4 majors, and we have the third of those 4 majors coming up this week, and it's not the last major of this season, but next year it will be. But
that's crazy.
It's in a sporting event unlike any other. It's the Open Championship, and it's going to be at Carnoustie this year, which is just a ridiculously difficult golf course and unorthodox and everything. Most people will remember Carnoustie as the course that Jean-Claude Van de Velde.
Yeah.
Is it Jean-Claude?
No,
John Van de Velde. Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, Van de Velde.
Downhill skier.
Where he blew the lead on 18, hitting it in the burn.
Did he ever?
And but yeah, that's the type of excitement I think that we could see here. It's obviously the world number 1 Dustin Johnson will be there. The world number 2 Justin Thomas will be there. 78 of the top 80 in this week's world rankings. Louis Oosthuizen and Bryson DeChambeau, who Oosthuizen won it in 2010, are in limbo now with injury concerns. But I know that they're both going to try to play. Right. And like any major, it's just a strong field, and I think it's the toughest tournament to handicap because of the venues, especially this year at Carnoustie.
Right.
A good player could find themselves in the wrong side of a bunker and essentially take themselves out of contention just by a stroke of bad luck. So I think the course will take center stage again. Each of the past 3 times the Open's been at Carnoustie, it's gone to a playoff thanks to late bogeys. And I think that this year we'll see the same thing. You guys excited to see the Open at Carnoustie?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I am. I'm looking forward to doing more this year probably because it's so dry.
Yeah.
I guess they haven't had rain in 80, 90, 100 days, something like that.
Ball's going to roll like crazy.
Yeah, I'm hearing like 100-yard roll, etc., even greater than 100 yards, and hitting drives 470 or something like that into a creek or the berm, as they burn, they call it.
Right.
Burns.
So it's going to be a whole different strategy, and you might see all kinds of different strategy between I'm going to hit an iron all day long and you're going to hit a driver all day long.
Right.
The end results, get it on the green and make the putt. So I think it might be interesting to watch that ball roll. And from what I know about professional golfers, they like golf courses when they're soaking wet because they know how far they fly the ball.
Yeah.
They don't care if they got to hit a 2-iron or not.
Mm-hmm.
Where we tend to want to hit a wedge.
Yep.
Let's get as close as we can, right? Now they got this thing, and that ball gets rolling. It is totally out of their control.
Right.
And if you watch some of the replays, the ball goes up these humps and bumps and down into those pot bunkers and waiting for a disaster.
Yep.
And this is the one, no, this isn't the course where Tiger hit iron all day long, right?
No.
Where he missed all the bunkers.
That was Royal Liverpool.
Royal Liverpool, okay. But that's going to be kind of the...
But that's what he did.
You got to avoid those
He had
things.
one driver all weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting on the approach that the Bombers take. Like, I listened to Rory McIlroy get interviewed today. He's going to hit driver.
Okay.
Because he can fly it over 300 yards. He's going to carry all the bunkers and take his chances with the rough.
Right.
Okay. Because he can get so darn close to it and all that. Others, though, you still hit an iron. You fly 200, it's going to end up going out 300 or more.
Yeah.
Okay. And now the greens are soft because they can irrigate the greens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now that's not a bad play either. You got a 120-yard wedge shot or something like that, and they get a Zach Johnson or those guys.
Even out of the
precision.
heavy rough, yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play it. You're going to see disasters. No doubt.
No
Of course, if it's super windy,
Right.
then that strategy becomes a little more difficult
Yeah.
too. I mean, so hitting a little low, you could literally, close down your 7-iron and just hit a little low 7-iron out there 300 yards on this course.
Right.
And it's so unorthodox compared to, what you've come to expect in the world of major championship golf or world-class professional golf with perfect conditions at Augusta.
Exactly.
And all the tour stops. And now we go to this place that, honestly, if you didn't know and you just threw it down in the middle of, and took out some of the big bunkers, people would think, what is this dog track we're playing on?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But,
absolutely.
up there it's so old and revered.
Right.
And really just a well-designed golf course that has so much character and so much potential to play different ways because of the weather. I mean, you're probably pretty pumped to see them play this course.
Oh, absolutely! I love seeing the challenge that's ahead of them, and I don't know how excited they are to play this course. It just seems like history precedes itself with this place, and the ones that haven't ever been there, I think, go into it pretty anxious. The ones that have played there I don't think they, as a whole, like it a whole lot compared to some of the others in the rotation. It definitely isn't as glorified or appreciated as St. Andrews is, or Muirfield or something like that, or Turnberry. I think that they just are scared. They just want to go in and survive, exactly. It's like some of the U.S. Opens from 10 years ago where we were seeing +6 win the tournament. I think they're all thinking if they can get in the house with -2 to a +2, you got a really good shot.
Right.
And I think you're going to see one of those. I think you and I were talking about it, Doug, a little bit earlier, that not necessarily a unknown win it, but some really low rounds from guys you wouldn't have ever heard of.
Right.
One day here and there, just because of the conditions at the certain time and how quickly they can change the wind. And if you're hitting into the wind in some of these holes, or you're hitting with the wind in some of these holes, it changes your whole outlook on what you're hitting on the tee box.
Yeah, we're talking about it. It seems like we're due for like a Todd Hamilton or a Ben Curtis to come out of where we have been all big names winning majors for the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, Paul Lowry won it at Carnoustie in 1999. But other than that, a pretty decent roster of winners. 2007 was Padraig Harrington. 1975 was Tom Watson. 68 was Gary Player. 53 was Ben Hogan. 1937 Henry Cotton. And 1931 Tommy Armour. And this was one of the newest courses to the Open rotation. Obviously, it's an old course, but 1931 being the first time it was played there, and this is the 147th now Open Championship. So it's 7,402 yards. It's the longest course in the Open's rotation. And it's right there along the North Sea. It's
very nondescript.
It's on Scotland's Angus coast.
If you look at the layout of it or pictures from it, you don't just say, "Oh wow, look at that."
Yeah, I agree. Especially from what we used to look at as American golf courses, it's totally the opposite, and it's tough to watch on TV sometimes. Okay, Pick up the golf ball.
But even going out to Shinnecock, when you look at that course, it's still beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's no trees. It's a link style course, but it's just it looks really nice. And you go look at Carnoustie and you're like, wow. Yeah. When are we playing St. Andrews?
Yeah. Yeah.
You go over there on a trip. It's one of those things where you try to play probably a couple of the big courses, but that might be fourth or fifth on the list. You think, one, how difficult it is, and two, there's some other really nice ones over there that you would think of first.
Well, one thing that does stand out are the gigantic pot bunkers. I mean, these aren't just your average pot bunkers. I mean, and that gets the imagination of the viewer going a little bit. It's just so fun it's just so different. It's going to be so fun to see, how these guys navigate this course. Like you said, it's playing in a way that no course has played that they've played yet this year, or probably in the last 4 or 5 years. And and I don't know if anybody's seen a weather forecast yet.
It's supposed to be dry and windy. But cool by our standards. I think it's supposed to be in the 60s.
Okay, well that's
temperature-wise, but the wind will be blowing. And again, the place is already dry.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen of any rain in the forecast. So I think it'd be interesting because a lot of times you'll hear these guys, they'll tee off, they want to leave it short of a bunker. Or, I don't know if you can really leave it short of some of these.
Right.
The way the swales all direct the ball right to the bunkers.
If McElroy's hitting it straight and his philosophy is to hit it over everything, it might not be a bad idea because he's, if he's dialed in with his short irons.
He said expect to see a lot of drivers.
Not taking.
And I would have thought the opposite way, but they want to take it over that stuff.
And if he's doing something like that, the other big hitters are probably thinking along the same line.
Yeah, or they're trying it right now.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow morning early.
Yeah, I saw McElroy blast a driver over to a green guarded by the berm, where it was like, it's like a 340-yard carry, and hit it on the green, hit it over the green.
So you just said 340-yard carry.
So, we mentioned early on that a lot of playoffs at Carnoustie, and a lot of them happen as guys go backwards on the final few holes. Final 4 holes, 3 par 4s that measure longer than 450 yards, and a par 3 that's about 250. All played over par in 2007, last time the Open was at Carnoustie. And if we look at the ranking of these holes in 2007, hole 15, 472-yard par 4, stroke average of 4.35, third toughest hole. 16, 248-yard par 3, average 3.3, and that was the 6th hardest hole on the course. 250-yard par 3 is the 6th hardest hole on the course. And then 17, you get a little bit of a break. It's 460-yard par 4, averaging 4.17 strokes in 2007, the 9th toughest, and then the toughest hole on the course, and maybe in all of golf, the 18th, 499 yards. I guess they just didn't want to move those tees back one more yard to make it 500. Par 4, 4.61 stroke average, toughest hole on the course. So, you're going to, even at Augusta, I think when you got a lead, you can feel good about bringing it home. We got a par 5 and a nice par 3 that funnels to the hole, usually on 16, and then but this is going to be different. I think you're going to want to hold on. You're not going to feel comfortable, as John Vandevelde learned the hard way. Even after you hit your first shot on 18, you're going to be clenching coming home if you have any kind of a lead. And so it should lead to drama and should lead to a lot of guys being, in the mix. So I don't know if we want to talk about favorites, because this is usually heading into a major or any tournament. I can give you reasons why I think this guy or that guy will win. I don't know what to think here. The guy that's sticking out to me is Tommy Fleetwood. I'll start by saying that. He holds the course record at Carnoustie. It wasn't under open conditions, though.
Right.
But
he's playing well.
He's playing well. He's from that side of the pond. He's 20-1 odds as of earlier today. For some reason, I'm thinking Tommy Fleetwood. And I guess it's early to give our picks, so maybe I jumped the gun. But are you guys, what kind of player you think is going to do well?
Well, I think whoever's going to be very patient because something's coming their way is a disaster. I don't think it's a bomber's golf course. I don't think it's a layup type golf course. This is going to be somebody who's going to stick to their game plan and
no matter
follow it through at all times, right?
Yeah.
And accept the fact they might make a bogey and not get upset.
Or a double or triple.
Yes. Okay. A bulldog type of a guy.
Yeah.
Right. So when I say bulldog, and I'm not going to make him as my pick, but Patrick Reed comes to mind as a bulldog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Zach Johnson comes to mind as kind of a bulldog. Mm-hmm. That type of player. I don't. It's easy to say, Dustin and Justin and all these guys hit the ball a country mile. I could,
I
see that too. I'll tell you another guy I like, Francesco Molinari is playing better than I think most right now too.
Yep.
He had a win and then he had a second place finish, I believe, over the weekend. He was second.
The type of short game that can thrive on a links course like this.
Yeah. Yep. I like. I have my eye on a few guys. I think Tommy Fleetwood is definitely one of them. But another guy that kind of bulldog per se, but just consistent, and if he's in a groove, Justin Rose. I really like him for this type of course.
His record in majors is hard to pick against him.
Yeah, and he's just if you really look at it, the top guys right this minute aren't really all in top form. Any of them, I mean, if you go back the last 2 months, Molinari is probably one of the best in form players right now, and it's hard to say what in form is, but because rankings are cumulative over time. But I just don't think that any of them are going in there right now feeling ultra confident in their game. So a guy like Justin Rose, I like that, and then a guy who's a bulldog, probably in one of the biggest senses to me, is Henrik Stenson. So if he's on, feeling good about his game.
He didn't play last week for some reason.
At the Scottish?
Yeah, he backed out. I think it was health related, I believe.
Throw that one out the window. But if he is feeling good, and I just like his mentality to play around a course like this. And what was it, 2 years ago he won the Open? So, that's so not really going out on a limb picking one yet, but I think those are guys that are good to look at.
Alex Noren's a guy at 30-1 who hits the ball low, boring type ball flight, and again, if the wind's blowing, maybe he's good. He doesn't hit the ball very high on a good day. Plays from over in that part of the country or that part of the world.
Yep.
I don't like Bubba Watson in these conditions. I don't like Phil Mickelson
under any conditions
for a lot of reasons.
Well, before we go any further, you see where Phil Mickelson called himself on a penalty at the Greenbrier?
Yeah.
Was it the Greenbrier? I think it was at the Greenbrier. Because he walked up on a tee and stepped on some grass that was in his line to tee off, and then he made it this whole thing where he called himself on it. It seemed manufactured to make up for when he cheated or didn't cheat, but hit the ball at the Open in protest while it was moving. And I don't know. I'm just getting sick of Mickelson, to be honest with you. I'm getting sick of his holier than thou type of approach. Nobody's benefited more than him from the game of golf, and I just think he's showing like a little bit of a lack of respect for certain aspects of the game from a guy will try to be an elder statesman, but I don't think that suits him that well.
I think he's untouchable, or he thinks he might be a little bit.
I totally agree. I think it was all orchestrated because he knew when he touched that ground it was illegal. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the cameras are on him and he's waving for the official, and I might have broke the rules. I'm not buying that. It was all look at me calling on myself this time. Who's ever doing damage control should be fired.
Right, because that was too obvious, I guess.
Yes.
Because first of all, of course, any PGA Tour member, any Web.com member, any college golfer knows you can't tap down a piece of grass that's in your way.
Right.
Like, I mean, come on. Right. So for him to do it and then be like, oh, I think I may have just broken a rule. Yeah. Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think...
Took himself right out of the contention for the Greenbrier. He's already, how many far back?
10 shots back.
Yeah.
So anyways, we don't like Mickelson's odds at Carnoustie, but I'm looking at the top here, the top contenders odds-wise, and it's kind of surprising because you got Dustin Johnson at 12-1, and then they got McIlroy and Fowler And Rowe was at 16-1, followed by Spieth at 18-1, and then Justin Thomas at 20-1, along with Fleetwood, Koepka, and Rahm. And so the thing I'm wondering is, how can the world's number 2 player have so many other players in between him and Dustin Johnson here on this list?
Yeah, we were talking about that too.
Yeah, I agree. 'Cause I don't see where Rory and Ricky deserve to be up there in the number 2 slot, tied for number 2. Justin Rose I support.
Yeah.
Okay, but they should be down. The 2 guys, Rory and Ricky, probably ought to be in the 25-1 range.
And Spieth's struggling.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Koepka, he just won the U.S. Open.
Yeah, but he hasn't played since, I don't think.
He played the week after. He did. He committed the week after. That
Oh,
was
the Travelers. The Travelers, yeah.
But so what? He hasn't played but one time, right? But he won the U.S. Open the last time out.
Yeah.
And he's won 2 U.S. Opens in a row. So, and I don't think John Rahm is on form. He's had some temperamental issues, and so I don't understand unless they're looking at this after the bets are on, and the people that are betting are bringing the odds down.
This is how people bet, so it's not necessarily like this is somebody handicapped. This would reflect where the money's being laid.
So people like Rory McIlroy apparently, so he moves up on the odds list, or I don't know how to say it, up or down. But
yeah, I don't think you would have him that high if it wasn't for money being put on him.
No, top 10, absolutely. Number 2, yeah, I don't buy it.
Yeah,
Ricky too.
Yeah, there's talking about just form and favorites and all that. Maybe the golf course. None of these guys have really played this golf course in this tournament.
Nope, 2007, 11 years. Who would
look at other than Tiger?
Tiger and Mickelson, Sergio, maybe Paul Casey.
Yeah,
maybe Casey. Yeah. So and none of those are even up close. So. It's not like they got a great record at this golf course, and so.
Well, we got to talk about it. Tiger Woods is in the field. Mm-hmm. It seems with less fanfare than previous tournaments he's been in the field. Almost as like the pressure's off now. People aren't expecting him maybe to win. Do you think he can slide in there? Do you think he's got the game to play? Obviously, he does have the game to play these types of courses. He's won the Claret Jug multiple times, but.
Well, I think he can win. I think this might be a good chance overall because I don't see somebody shooting 20 under par to win this thing. Tiger looks like his troubles have been with the putting lately. All right, and if he can stay out of those bunkers,
right.
I don't know if an even par with a good projected score. I don't know, but could he shoot even par in 4 rounds? I don't see why not. And to me, that might put him close. It might be. I mean, even the Golf Channel today were raving this. The British Open probably is the best chance he has from now on to win a major.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, Tom Watson almost won it a few years ago.
Yeah, at 57 years old.
Yeah, and he did it by hitting long irons,
hybrids,
rolling them up there in hybrids.
Yes.
So I mean, Tiger's done that and won before. So if there's going to be a chance for him to win it,
but I think he needs a good start on Thursday and Friday because you gotta get that blood flowing and get in the hunt.
Can't go +4 in your first 2 holes.
Yeah, although you could come back here from a little bit behind, but again, how many players are between you and the top is the problem.
Yeah.
So.
And Tiger's, when he was winning majors, would even sometimes start off really slow and then come storming back. But I don't know if he's got that type of firepower anymore, or I don't think when he starts to make that run that the rest of the field gets affected like they used to.
Right.
So yeah, he does. He'd need to get off to a good start, but I'd give him as good a chance as anybody that's up here. I'd give him as good a chance as Hideki Matsuyama or Mark Leishman or Tyrell Hatton or Ian Poulter.
Absolutely.
I mean, so it could happen. And frankly, as much as he's been around contention, it's a matter of time, right? So why not this week at Carnoustie?
The putter. As long as if he's rolling them in.
Hey, he shows where a couple shots around what the difference that makes on the tour. Because he's got up on the leaderboard up to like 5th and 6th place the last couple times out, then fell down.
Yeah.
Right, but those 2 or 3 shots he gives up, it just shows what that does over 4 days.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he loses the momentum. I don't know if he's not really keep climbing on 14, 15, 16. The air's probably out of the balloon.
Right.
And it is for us watching as well, but. If he just doesn't give those shots away, but that's true for anybody in this event. They got to manage those misses and make sure it's a double or a single, not a double, triple, quad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is there anybody that you guys have in mind that is, not on this list of the 8. We have a list of 80 to 1 or better, or even somebody towards the bottom list. Anybody that might surprise that comes to mind that's playing well. And
I could, to your point, Doug, about kind of a no name or a lesser known. He's kind of been in the conversation a few times over the past year, but is not at the top. And he is on this list, though. But I would say that like a Xander Schauffele, I could see, coming out and throwing out some good rounds, and being a guy that could win this tournament and kind of arrive, so to speak, because he's got the game for it, and he's been making cuts left and right, and he has a few top tens already. So. He's one that nobody's talking about that I could see, coming through.
There's a guy that plays a big international schedule that I've always liked, and he really hasn't done that well in the majors, but Kiradesh Affi-Barnrat.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And more times than on a European tour, you see him up there on the final day, and he's one of few.
Right.
But he seems to be in the top 10 quite a bit, and you can't misplace who he is when you see him.
Right.
He's
a little bigger.
Interesting guy, that, and of course the name.
Flashy.
But he's one of the guys I think could make a run here and be a surprise, like we talked about earlier, maybe from off the board kind of a bet.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I think Webb Simpson's flying under the radar. As a guy who's obviously having a great season. Brian Harmon is having an outstanding season that you won't hear his name mentioned once leading up to this weekend.
Right.
But he seems to have the type of game that he can manage around that golf course. And you also have to wonder, is it ever going to be time for a guy like Rafael Cabrera Bello, or European like him, to kind of break through? And
Matt Kuchar.
Kuchar came in second last year.
And played well at the Scottish Open.
He did
last week.
Yep. He's looking for that first major.
Right. Wouldn't be a huge surprise to see him win. It'd be a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
But.
Got guys like Emiliano Grillo, a younger guy who seems to have a game suited for this type of course. And
Matt Fitzpatrick.
I noticed Luke List was over playing at the Scottish Open this week, which I thought was kind of odd. And he's having a solid season, So if you want to look at a name to come out of nowhere, Brandon Grace seems to always be in contention, in majors. Russell Knox is playing well. There's so many players. And then it always seems like in the Open and the U.S. Open, I guess, could be the same way that, you're going to go into Saturday with two names in the top 10 that you never heard of.
Sure.
Right.
And whether they can
survive.
Yeah. Well, they usually don't, but
typically don't.
Occasionally they do. So we talked earlier in the show about the WGC events, maybe losing the. This is the true WGC event. The Open is the true World Championship. There's more players globally from all the tours than there is at the U.S. Open, and certainly more than the Masters or the PGA, which the U.S. Open is predominantly. It's a world field, but a lot of Americans fill out the roster there, where here you're going to get a lot of players from Asia, and you're going to, like you said, a lot of players you never heard of.
Right.
So, well, if you want to watch this thing, better set your alarm. Thursday and Friday, 1:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the Golf Channel. And then Saturday, 4:30 to 7 a.m. on Golf Channel, followed by 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on NBC. Historically, the Open being a ABC.
ABC, right.
So Johnny Miller will be there in company.
As long as it's not Fox.
Yeah, it's not Fox. Then Sunday, again, 4:30 to 7 a.m. on the Golf Channel, 7 a.m. to 2:30 on NBC. So you can watch the final round of the Open and still have time to get 18 in or mow your lawn. Which is kind of the cool thing about this. And then, it is fun getting up early. How early? You'll have to see. I remember at the Open, maybe it was last year or the year before, watching a couple holes before I went to bed, and then waking up at 5:30 in the morning. And when I went to bed, it was sunny, and when I woke up 4 hours later, it was a monsoon. because I just left the TV on.
I did that at the President's Cup too. Remember, when it was over in Asia, like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
two or 3 years ago. It was fun watching it. Start at midnight and watch it through till like 5 a.m.
So, before we move off this and just talk about a couple other things before we get out of here, who's your pick? Who's our pick? Got to pick one, right?
I'm going to go with Justin Rose. He's due for another major. He's got the game. I feel he should have won a couple majors by now, and just for whatever reason hasn't gotten it done. But I just think he'll grind it out.
I think he'll be there for sure. Brownie?
Well, see, I know who your pick's going to be.
Jason Day or Jordan Spieth?
No. And I was leaning towards that guy that you're going to pick, so I'll just leave him alone. I'm going to go Tyrell Hatton.
Wow, to win 40-1.
Yeah, because he was reasonable over the weekend. He's on the European Tour and he's up in that leaderboard a lot. Although I do truly believe we're going to get somebody winning this thing off way out of the eye.
Totally out, like George Coetzee.
Yes.
Kiridesh.
Effie Barnrat.
Yes.
Abraham Answer.
There you go.
I think would even be more obscure. I'm going to go with Tommy Fleetwood. You saw how he played at the U.S. Open under similar types of conditions and circumstances, I guess. That's probably about the closest thing that we could get. Of course, then why wouldn't I pick Brooks Koepka, you know? Mm-hmm. But I think this is the week that Fleetwood really breaks through.
Yeah, he's due. He's a good player, and he deserves to be a major champion.
Yeah, I can deal with that.
Yep.
You know.
I would think it would be a good win.
Yeah, wouldn't be disappointed to see him win.
Right.
But don't be surprised if Jordan Spieth or Jason Day break out of their slumps. And not that Day's been in a slump, but he doesn't.
I wouldn't be surprised if any of those 10 or 12 guys did that. It's not a shock at all.
I think this is just what Jordan Spieth might need, a tournament like this, where he can come out and rely on his shot making and maybe not focus so much on making birdie putts, and getting frustrated.
It's kind of what he did at Travelers last year. He kind of came out of nowhere after.
Yeah.
He missed the cut at the Open, right?
Yeah.
Right before?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'd like to see that, but who knows? So, but like I say, it gets started on Thursday. Got to get up bright and early.
No question. I'd gladly do so.
So, Brittany Lincecum, she's won twice on the PGA Tour or LPGA Tour. She is going to test her skills against PGA Tour competition at the Barbasol, is it? Yeah, it's the Barbasol, which moved to a course in Kentucky. And so here we go again. I mean, I like it. I think it's kind of fun because she's going to obviously play the same tees as the men. She's not the premier player on the LPGA Tour by any stretch of the imagination. Right. But I think it's a nice little sidebar. Some people may argue she's taking a spot from a guy trying to earn their check the same way they did when Steph Curry played on the Web.com tour. But, if you're the Barbasol and the Open's going on, a nice little sidebar. And if she can make the cut, that's a huge story.
Sure it is.
I don't like it.
Don't like it, huh?
No. I didn't have a problem with it when it was Annika because she was so dominant and she was clearly the best player on the tour.
You thought she might be able to actually compete to win.
No, but
she didn't.
I didn't think that, but I thought going into it she'd have a legit chance to shoot a couple good numbers and make the cut. She was much more prominent in the LPGA Tour, and I thought it brought a lot more attention to the LPGA Tour. Now, Brittany Lincecum, how many people even know who she is? Mm-hmm. I know that plenty do that know golf, but why? Why Brittany Lincecum? I mean, I don't know. I think it's just it is taking a spot from somebody, especially when you're doing an alternate a major event.
FedEx Cup points at stake, I think, right?
FedEx Cup points.
But it may not be taking somebody's spots. The sponsor might have created an extra spot more than likely.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah,
to not get that scrutiny. So
I don't know.
The only thing I do like about this, she's not the type of player who's going to come out and say, I want to play on the men's tour.
Right.
She knows where she belongs. Is this a circus? A little bit, yes. Okay. But, I mean, Annika sometimes said maybe I'll go there. Michelle Wee definitely said she's going to try to play in the men's tour.
Good luck, Michelle Wee.
Right.
Annika, you has you listening, but Michelle
But this lady's not going to say that. When it's all over, she's going to be very appreciative. Probably sold a couple extra tickets, and she's going to go back to the LPGA.
Well, the nice thing, too, about this, if you're the Barbasol, is British Open's over in the early afternoon, and you can watch the Barbasol early evening.
Yeah, I mean, I get why the tournament's doing it, for sure.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
Well, Brittany Lincecum's not going to be in contention on Sunday anyways. But
She might not be there
it
on
was.
Sunday.
I don't know if it was last year or the year before where there was an incredible finish at the Barbasol. I think it was. Oh, geez, now I'm drawing a blank. I watched the whole thing. Might have been Sean O'Hare. Anyways, a little bonus golf.
It is. Hopefully I'll be playing it or mowing the lawn, like you said, at that point.
So, like I say, third major, I mean, it all happens fast this time of year. We were just talking about the U.S. Open a few weeks ago. After this week, it's off to the RBC Canadian Open at Glen Abbey. And then it's the World Golf Championships Bridgestone Invitational, same week as the Barracuda in Reno. And then it's the PGA Championship at Bellerive Country Club in St. Louis. The season's fourth major, defending champ Justin Thomas. So, we got Open, 2 weeks, another major. Then the Wyndham, which is probably one of the most meaningless tournaments on the schedule, because unless you're trying to break into that top 130, which honestly that's kind of a playoff event at that point. You've got guys trying to get into the playoffs. And then following the Wyndham, it's the Northern Trust at Ridgewood Country Club in Paramus, New Jersey, followed by the Dell Technologies Championship at TPC Boston, then the BMW at Aronimink at Newton Square, Pennsylvania, and then the Tour Championship at East Lake. And then the following week after the Tour Championship, of course, the Ryder Cup at Le Golf National in France, home of the World Cup Championship French national soccer team. So, and I guess nobody in France cares about the Ryder Cup, from what I've been hearing.
Will they even have anybody on the team?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think they will have a single Frenchman. Is there what Frenchman is there? After they saw what happened to John Van der Velde, everybody said, I don't want to play golf.
And he was on the Ryder Cup team, I think, the next year around with that. But yeah, I mean, who from there is going to be even
some captain's
remotely
pick.
close?
Wow, that's interesting.
And they definitely don't care about it now after yesterday.
Oh, definitely not.
Well, there's not a lot of golf courses in France, apparently. And not a lot of people play golf. It's true. It's an elitist game there, the way it used to be in other parts of the world.
Yeah,
I think it must have been on Golf Channel. I saw some feature about that,
right.
And I was kind of shocked when I thought about it. Yeah, I mean, you never really think of France as a golf hub of golf in the world of golf.
Right. Just go through the list. How many can you name French golfers? It's hard.
I got one. That's it.
And only because
is that Van der Velde, or you got another one?
No, that's it.
Only because of his major.
Yeah, without him, it'd be
gaff at the British Open.
There's got to be some.
Oh, there's a few. There's got to have been out there over the years.
You're right. I can't think of any. Great. I'm going to search Google. Great French golfers. Let's see what comes up.
I bet you we know a couple that we know.
Oh, Thomas Levet. Remember him?
Thomas Levet, yeah.
Victor Dubuisson. Remember him?
Yeah. Remember, he's still playing.
See, now we're getting
Alexander Levy, who's actually playing in the Open this week. Alexander Levy.
So Dubuisson could be on the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah.
He could be as a captain's choice.
Yeah.
Raphael Jacqueline, Gregory Hevray. So anyways, not...
household names.
Yeah, not household names.
Nothing going to move that meter.
No.
And they are all...
First round, Havre will be leading.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe there's some from the past here. I'm looking at a list, but no, there's no names jumping off this list.
And that was that's like the top of it. Like, was Van der Velde even on there?
Yeah, he was on there. I didn't mention him, but yeah. There's nobody from the previous eras of Jack Nicklaus or Ben Hogan, that jumps off this list. So
I got to say that when we came in tonight, the last thing I was thinking about that we would talk about tonight was great French golfers.
I know it.
Didn't think that was going to come up tonight.
Well, it's a short conversation because I think we're done with that because I don't see any. So. Just kind of odd that that's where the Ryder Cup, they chose for the Ryder Cup to be.
It is when you think about the names you just mentioned. What was the motivation? To grow the game, they could have done that with something different than the Ryder Cup.
Or give the Ryder Cup to one of these open road courses. Mm-hmm. I would wish it would. Do you remember them ever playing the Ryder Cup at St. Andrews? At the old course? I don't remember them playing that there.
Muirfield.
You imagine they would have had to at some point.
I would think someplace they did along the way.
But that would certainly be cooler than Le Golf National.
Mm-hmm.
But won't pass judgment till we see how it goes.
I'm sure it's a fine course.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's a fine course. So point being is, we're winding down already. And next year we'll be really winding down. This will be the last major, and then it'll be on to the playoffs almost immediately, and it'll be over before the end of August. So, whew.
Just a quick story. We had another hole-in-one at Seneca Falls Country Club last Monday.
Really?
You want to talk about some local golf for a minute?
Yeah, I do.
Mark Campbell, I'm not sure how he pronounces it, had a hole-in-one number 12 last Monday night in the league.
So 3 on 12 this year.
Yes. We had Scott Pritchard on 12. We had Sarah Ferrara on 12.
Mm-hmm.
And now this guy, Mark, and then Brandon Dauber on number 7.
Really?
Yes, about a month ago.
Man, they're not making as big a splash as they used to, these hole-in-ones.
Yeah, they get spread around that day, but I'm not sure if there's any purchases being made at the saloon because of them. But
that tradition's gone out the door. Huh?
But I'll tell you what, if and when I ever have one, that tradition's coming back. Okay, so I don't care if I got to find out where you are.
Especially the first one.
Yeah,
right?
But it's good news. 118-yard pitch and wedge, I think he said. It was 118 yards, I believe.
Good.
Hit a pitch and wedge, one hop. So
my second hole-in-one, I bought a keg and they put it right out by the putting green, which probably wasn't a great thing for the club because everybody's just drinking the free beer out of the keg instead of. But I think because I was a youngster that they were doing me a favor because back then that was serious. When you got a hole-in-one, you were literally buying everybody a drink, and I was making like $2.75 an hour.
Right, probably cost you $30 for a keg of beer or something.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay, well, looks like we're about done here with another episode of the GolfJ.com podcast. Are you guys
next week,
planning on waking up?
Oh, yeah.
I'll be up 4:30 tonight.
But you aren't going to pull any all-nighters or anything like that?
No, I'll go to sleep for a while and then wake up.
Yeah, I might come into work. I actually have TV in my office at work, so I might come in extra early, Mm-hmm. But who knows? Either way, it'll be fun. There's nothing like the Open. And as you mentioned, we'll be back next week to wrap it all up and talk about it. And, man, I have a feeling we're going to really have some interesting things to talk about from Carnoustie. So,
Justin Rose's second major.
Hey,
I'm on it.
It's going to be something like that. There's going to be some storyline that's going to dominate our conversation. So the fun is seeing what that ends up being over the 4 days of the Open. So and live from the Open on Golf Channel. That's always great too.
It is.
When those guys are back. So which quickly Mickelson got mad at Brandel Chambly this week. Did you see that?
No.
He said that Chambly knocks guys down where he should be trying to grow the game through fellowship or something. But just another
Phil's just trying
reason I got upset at Mickelson. Brandel Chambly makes golf interesting, if you ask me.
He does knock guys, but I think that's part of his job.
Yeah, sure, of course, just like any analyst. So thanks for spending some time with us on the GolfJ.com podcast. Connect with us online at Twitter, at the GolfJ, on Instagram, at @the_GolfJ. On Facebook at facebook.com/GolfJ. All of our episodes on the best of the wide world of golf on the web can be found at golfj.com. We'll be back next Monday night, 9 p.m. Until then, hit 'em long, not often.
golfj.com.